The last two conference games, Missouri has played incredibly well. Lost to Auburn by 1, had every opportunity to win the game. And then they played Wednesday afternoon early because of the snow. Led nearly the entire second half and lost by 1 to Florida. Their personnel's changed a little bit due to injuries. I anticipate they'll be full force tomorrow. They're really good at getting to the middle of the floor, and that was where they were so successful against Auburn and even against Florida. And they hurt us really bad in transition, particularly in the first half. We did a little better in the second half, but they threw the first punch and almost knocked us out at Missouri. So we've had yesterday a really good day of work, and then we just finished film, and then we'll practice later today. But those are the priorities going into the game.
Well, despite how well they played, don't you glean a lot of encouragement from the fact that you just said you beat them up there when you didn't score for the first time?
Our guys, I think it was 8:53. Our guys showed incredible resilience and fight in that game. And I think we have, for the most part, in nearly every game, except the second half against South Carolina. I think it started 12-0, used a timeout. We were turning the ball over, live ball turnovers leading to transition for them. Our guards had the highest number of rebounds they've had all season long. Our 5 perimeter players, who we call guards, had 17 defensive rebounds, and that was game-changing for us the last 30 minutes of the game because we're able to play faster. If our guards defensive rebound, now they can initiate transition. For instance, as a comparison, at Missouri in the last 30 minutes of the game, Q, Haas, Dre, Marcus, and 4 had 17 defensive rebounds. In the entire 40 minutes at Tennessee, those same 5 guys only had 6 rebounds. Some of that means you're taking the ball out of the net a lot, but some of that also means that your guards are not in the fight when the opponent shoots. And we've got to get back to our guards having rebounds in the teens because statistically speaking, we're the 25th best transition offense. And the best way for us to play in transition, don't get the ball out of the net. But when we get a defensive rebound, we want our guards to be in the mix to get that. And I thought, in addition to the guts that they played with, that was a big change in what had transpired previous to the first 10 minutes.
And Buzz, during this slump, have you ever felt the need to just reevaluate the players and maybe the way that the lineup you use? I know you've had some small changes, or would you say that your faith in this team, the way you have it right now, has
we've made a lot of changes, whether the public sees them or not. The lineup changes may or may not make a difference. The personnel groupings and how we've played them has been different. We did a deep dive analytically through the first 9 games in conference play, the 4 we won and the 5 we lost, and what was the difference. And then we've kind of studied that since Tuesday night. I guess it would end up being Wednesday morning. Here's our personnel. Here's how we utilized them in 9 games. In the 4 games we won, in the 5 games we lost, what's the difference? Because the personnel is not going to change. The minutes may change, but what's the difference? And so that's kind of going forward on the back 9, what we learned from the front 9, how do we need to improve? And for instance, the guard rebounds, that was huge in one of the 4 wins, and that was a huge detriment in one of the 5 losses, right? And the numbers kind of tell themselves. We broke it into 4 categories, and yesterday our kids didn't have school, so we spent time yesterday not talking about an opponent, but kind of evaluating what we had learned as a staff in that deep dive into the analytics and the stats of our team on what helped us win and what keeps us from winning.
How much do you look at the game against Missouri for this game, or is it more of what you've done recently?
Yeah, we watch, anytime there's a mirror opponent, the prep is a little different. We study our game, what was good, what was bad, and then from a kind of a coaching strategy standpoint, what do we think they'll keep doing versus what do we think they won't do? And then we study the games after they've played us. Are they still the same? Are they doing different things? Is it plays? Is it personnel? Some of their personnel's changed because of injuries, but I think they're back almost full speed now. I anticipate that'll be the case tomorrow. So we do watch when it's a mirror opponent. We do start the research with our game.
When you were looking into this stuff, the games and the times in the games when you were successful, did you find that it was the things you were leaning on, like defensive rebounding, turnover percentage, or was there anything?
It was really good. Some of it, you know how it started, Travis, was what I said to you guys at the end of the game against Tennessee. So 16 turnovers against Tennessee and 10 were live. What happened on those 10 live? They had 16 offensive rebounds, which was 52% of their misses. What did they do on those 16 rebounds? And then, like, as you keep on covering that, similar to what I mentioned, well, our guards only had 6. Well, that can't be the case. Well, then why did our guards only have 6? And then you watch Missouri in a win. How did our guards have 17? 17's a very high number. 16's a very low number. And so I do think that we've talked about it as a staff. We pretty much spent the night here Tuesday and then got together again Wednesday and kept going and then finished it Thursday morning before I presented it to the team. Middle drives break down any defense. A middle drive is probably going to lead to you're in rotation. So it's late on a contested shot, and you're probably not in the right position to defensive rebound. But the 4 categories, you don't want to, it's not really what we know as coaches, it's what our players know. And so we kind of boiled it down to the lowest common denominator and tried to show them in the win, here's a slide, in the loss, here's a slide of this category, and broke it down into 4 categories. And like we talked about it yesterday, and we practiced those categories yesterday, and then we just talked about it again right now. Those categories is what we have shown relative to Missouri for our game. Missouri against Auburn, Missouri against Florida, Missouri against Texas A&M. Only talking about those 4 categories so that your kids, our kids, can see themselves doing it, good and bad, and then can see from a scouting standpoint, see Missouri, see what they're trying to do, not against Texas A&M, and how that relates to one of the 4 categories of us.
With how you talked about Missouri has had success in the middle of the court, and you talk about being beat on the dribble penetration and rotation, is this a good litmus test to see how y'all take a next step forward?
Absolutely. One of our core principles defensively is to not let the ball get to the middle. And then one of the things we did great as far as middle drives, we did great against Missouri. Well, if you're doing great at not letting it to the middle, then you're not in rotation. And now all of a sudden you're not in rotation, you can contest the shot. And you can contest the shot, you're not in rotation. So when they shoot, you have inside position on the defensive rebound. And so I think going into the last 9, I think we've identified, we know the core of what we want to do, and we found the difference in what's good and what's bad. And then what we show, what we walk through, and what we practice and what we say are going to be on those things that we know are required to be good.
I assume defensive rebounding was one of those 4 categories?
We're
Can you say what
300.
they are?
We're top 30 in the country in offensive rebounding. Top 30. It's really good. Because I know when you, stereotypically speaking, if you say rebounding, you say, go get it, we need to be bigger, whatever. Well, we're playing with the same guys on both ends of the floor, but we have more guys to defensive rebound with than we do guys to offensive rebound with, because when we shoot an offensive ball, we need guys to get back in transition to prevent offensive transition by the opponent. Really good in offensive rebounding, but we're giving up. We rebound 33.3% of the balls we miss. We're giving up that same number in defensive rebounding. So when we get our own balls, we're top 30 in the country. And when we, on the other end, we're 330th at the opponent getting the same rate. And so that's for sure the biggest category.
Does a lot of that go back to getting into rotation and not being able to be?
It's a big part of it.
Yeah.
If you're top 30 in offensive rebounding and you're getting 33% of your missed shots, it could mean you're getting the opponent in rotation. Mm-hmm. And then on the other end, we are giving up 33% of the balls they miss, which means we're getting in rotation too much, right? Because you're playing with the same players on both ends of the floor. So we have to do a better job finishing the possession with the rebound. And the way you do better with that is you don't get in rotation.
Coach Williams, we spoke with Coach Blair a couple of minutes ago, or 30 minutes or so ago, and he was talking about how you could tell that the ladies were already feeling a little bit lighter today after their win yesterday. So are you getting a sense from the guys that this losing streak's been weighing heavy on them, and how are they feeling?
I think they were incredible the day after Kentucky. Knew we had every opportunity to win at Arkansas. Disappointed in how we finished the game against LSU. Hurt when we got beat in the second half to South Carolina. Played one of the better defensive and offensive teams in the country. Our OER against Tennessee was 1.18. And our defensive DER was 1.27, and it was because they got so many offensive rebounds. I'm very transparent with everything that goes on. When it's good, I tell them the truth. When it's bad, I tell them the truth. I think they have played hard. I think they've played together. We haven't always played as smart as we have to play. We haven't executed on either end to the level you have to play in order to win the SEC. But yeah, when you win, you feel better. When you lose, you don't feel as good. I think that's for anybody. I think the women won because Coach Blair wore blue jeans last night. And I was kind of thinking that I should wear blue jeans. I haven't worn blue jeans since I was in high school. And I don't have those boots that are logoed and monogrammed for Coach. I just have $100 Kohan shoes, so I can't wear what Coach Blair wears. But I'm also not in the Hall of Fame or a national champion. I think I'm going to tell him right now as soon as we're done, Coach, I think you should wear jeans from now on. Did y'all notice that?
Yeah.
He's
I think
wearing.
He's done it a couple games now.
Oh, he has?
Yeah, I think so. He did it against.
Did they win?
One game.
Yes,
Yeah.
I don't remember what game.
The previous game that he wore jeans? They won?
It was the game that I covered for Cease.
So that's why his kids feel better. He wore jeans.
Relax.
He wore jeans.